All right, moving on. Now, I'm no politics expert, but I believe that the resignation of Gladys Berejiklian means we're actually going to get a new Premier of New South Wales. Oh, and here he is now. Who is it?
Dominic Perrottet becomes the youngest New South Wales Premier.
Good evening. New South Wales has a new Premier tonight, the youngest in the state's history.
Yes, he's so young that nobody in Sydney seems to know his name.
Who's the new Premier?
Dominic Perrottet.
Who's that?
Do you know who that is?
The new, I can't pronounce the surname. Yep, Perrott, whatever.
Yeah, Dominic, I can't remember his last name.
He's the Premier-elect.
All right, so let's dig in a bit into who is Dominic Perrottet. Well, there was one main trait that the media seemed to keep bringing up.
A staunch Catholic with staunch Catholic views. A criticism throughout his career has been that Dominic Perrottet has conservative views as a staunch Catholic that would make him unelectable.
You're a conservative Christian man with traditional views. What about all those people who don't share those views?
Yes, I love the Australian media. How dare a political leader be religious? So yes, Perrottet is a staunch Catholic, but do we have any proof he's a staunch Catholic? He's not just saying he's religious to curry favour with the religious right, is he? Is there any proof at all that he's a staunch Catholic?
A father of 6 and a devout Catholic.
The devout Catholic also juggles being dad to his 6 children.
That probably proves that he's a devout Catholic. Yes, right, okay. Moving on, the New South Wales State Opposition Leader Chris Minns wouldn't be dragged into the media mud pit over Dominic Perrottet's religious views for a very good reason.
I mean, it'd be a bit hypocritical for me to criticise Dominic Perrottet for being a practising Catholic when I'm a practising Catholic.
Oh, come on, Chris Minns. Being a hypocrite is what being a politician's all about. Lay into him for once. Every dodgy politician always talks about how dodgy the other guys are when they're even dodgier. So if he's Catholic, you should hassle him for being Catholic. Doesn't matter if you're Catholic. Do your job. Okay, so he's religious, but, you know, how religious could he be, really? He's not going to turn off voters with his religious views, is he?
Dominic Perrottet is a devout Catholic who has previously opposed same-sex marriage and the decriminalisation of abortion.
The state's top job now rests with a man who last year voted for abortion to remain a crime.
I choose life, and I encourage others to do the same.
He's anti-abortion, anti-same-sex marriage, even backing Israel Folau's right to post anti-gay statements.
He is employed to play football. I don't think anybody is actually following his Twitter religiously.
He was against laws to force priests to disclose cases of child abuse, revealed in the confessional.
That the confessional seal is sacrosanct for every priest and every penitent, no matter who and no matter what sins are confessed.
Yeah, that's a little bit too religious, I think, for many people in New South Wales. And then Dominic Perrottet contradicted himself by saying this week.
I think a fundamental premise of my values is respect and dignity for everyone.
Just not the Liberal Party women who want to be in his cabinet.
Rob Stokes had pledged gender equality in his cabinet if he'd won. Dominic Perrottet agreed more women are needed, but he wouldn't match the commitment.
No, it's something I'll work towards. I'm not making any commitments in relation to the cabinet.
And then in terms of other views that might rub people the wrong way, he thinks people making $120,000 a year deserve some tax cuts.
Why should we be saying as a country that people who aspire to earn $120,000 or more should somehow not have more of their money, that their hard-earned money in their own hip pockets to make their own choices rather than giving those funds to the government to make choices? And we've seen a lot of the waste at a federal level.
But in terms of employment and jobs, there is one group he'll stand up for.
We made the decision to ensure that we made a greater investment in the stonemasons who are doing essential work for the betterment of the state.
Yes, once again, another New South Wales Premier in the pocket of big stonemason, of course. Being the first millennial Premier, he's decided to tackle one issue which millennials can relate to.
As the first millennial Premier, he also has housing affordability on the agenda.
He says one of the focuses of his government will be housing affordability.
We are facing a real challenge right now when it comes to generational equity, when many young people today cannot get their keys to their very first home.
Yes, and of course, one of the main reasons housing is unaffordable in this state and in Sydney is largely due to the policies of your party that's been in power over the last 10 years. In fact, I'm personally about $30,000 out of pocket because you decided to axe the first home buyers bonus and the stamp duty waiver when you got into power 10 years ago, which was right when I was house hunting. Yes, I love the political dysfunction in this country. As soon as anything gets hard, leaders quit and then new leaders come in, trying to fix the problems that the previous leaders made, who are also in the same party as them. Meanwhile, we forget to vote them out because we forgot that these guys actually made the problems that they're trying to fix. I need a holiday. And then there's the thing that's most associated with Dominic Perrottet during his time as Treasurer, the iCare scandal.
iCare, the state's workplace insurer, has been one of his other babies, troubled, though, by mismanagement.
Pressure is mounting for the New South Wales Treasurer to stand aside over his handling of the state's workplace injury insurer.
Allegations aired by the Sydney Morning Herald and ABC of chronic underpayment of injured workers and poor financial management have plunged iCare into controversy, along with its creator, Dominic Perrottet.
Now, the iCare scandal is very long and complex, but thankfully, ABC Radio Sydney's Robbie and Wendy decided to read the whole laundry list of allegations to Dominic Perrottet himself when he was on the radio in August last year.
Treasurer Dominic Perrottet is with us this morning.
Good morning to you, Treasurer.
Good morning, Robbie. Morning, Wendy.
All right, Dominic Perrottet, under your stewardship, iCare, the organisation that you created in 2015, has ended up with double the number of workers unable to return to employment. It's facing claims that more than 50,000 injured workers could have been underpaid by $80 million. It's been revealed that the number of executives being paid over $300,000 has risen from 2 to 45 people, a 22-fold increase. It's been involved in contracts that haven't gone to tender, referrals to ICAC, and a former chief executive whose wife, as we learnt yesterday, was paid $800,000 over 3 years without a tender. That, combined with the fact that 2 of your staff were on the iCare payroll, despite working in your office and doing no work for the organisation, and comments from the chief executive of the State Insurance Regulatory Authority that iCare's performance is unacceptable, adds up surely to a litany of failures, some of them potentially illegal, under your watch. As the instigator of this scheme and the person ultimately responsible for its operations, will you resign as New South Wales Treasurer?
No, Robbie.
Either you weren't aware of how badly the organisation was operating, in which case that's a dereliction of duty, or you were aware and did nothing about it, equally a dereliction of duty, surely.
Well, Robbie, I think that there's no doubt a range of issues, and the board, who is responsible to me as the Treasurer, have been dealing with a range of these issues over time.
Yes, a massive scandal which Dominic Perrottet was in charge of, for which he takes no responsibility. This guy has federal politics written all over him. And then on top of all this, there's Perrottet's handling of COVID. And I didn't think anyone could be more pro-business, anti-lockdown than Gladys Berejiklian in this state and get away with it, but boy oh boy.
The anti-lockdown Treasurer.
The anti-lockdown pro-business Dominic Perrottet
has been an anti-lockdown advocate.
He's been very vocal about the need to open up and has been opposed to lockdowns throughout almost.
But we can't just keep going into lockdown every single time there's a few cases. I would say in many states it seems that there's 100% focus on health at the expense of people's livelihoods.
And then upon taking the leadership this week, with Sydney due to come out of its 4-month lockdown next week, Perrottet said he was going to do things a little bit differently.
Good evening. Freedom is being fast-tracked for our state. New Premier Dominic Perrottet today putting his own mark on our roadmap out of lockdown.
From Monday, you can have 10 people over to your house rather than 5. That number doesn't include any children under 12.
Which means if everyone you have over to your house is like Dominic Perrottet and has 6 children, you can technically have 70 people inside your house. And then he had this brainwave to help slow COVID.
And when we hit 80%, masks will no longer be required in office buildings.
These changes today, I think, will make a real difference. We want New South Wales to open up as quickly as possible.
Yes, because everyone will definitely want to go back to work if it's full of maskless people.
From the Medical Association, though,
seems to be focusing more on the economic realities and challenges facing Sydney and potentially pushing health advice into the background.
He also had this pro-business announcement.
While singing will be allowed not only by performers but choirs up to 10.
Yes, great news for the 10-person choir industry. Finally, you can get back to work, singing and spreading COVID over everyone. Good job. And then there was this bizarre announcement about nightclubs.
On the Monday, after the state hits 80% fully vaccinated, nightclubs can open, but dancing is banned.
Nightclubs can open provided they operate like bars and offer seated drinking only.
Yeah, great. You can sit in a nightclub that's now a bar and reminisce about all the fun times you had when it was a nightclub. Yeah, look, honey, there's the flight of stairs I fell down after I had 14 Jaeger bombs back when they used to have an indie night here. Those are the days. Anyways, in conclusion, let me be the very first to say, Premier Dominic Perrottet, resign please.